In today's story, there is a lady and her name is Amaka. Amaka is tall, sexy, and beautiful. Hardly will Amaka walk past you that you will not take notice of her beauty. Amaka's beauty was so obvious that everyone wanted her. After Amaka finished the university, Amaka refused to do any business or even search for work in order to make an honest living. The few times she searched, she didn't get them. Therefore, she decided to relax. Amaka's siblings continued to work hard to fend for themselves. Amaka always looked down on her siblings' hustle simply because she doesn't believe in working hard. According to Amaka, she is a very fine girl and needs no stress because one day a rich wealthy man will come and take her away. That she wasn't built for stress. So far, it has been working for Amaka because all the men that comes to her are usually rich. Amaka will be with you because of what you can give her, and once the money stops coming, Amaka moves on to the next person. This continued happening until Amaka met with another guy. This guy's name is Matthew. Matthew, being an only child, wanted to marry Amaka as soon as possible. It wasn't quite long when Matthew proposed marriage to Amaka. Amaka declined. Matthew wanted to know why, but Amaka simply said that she wasn't ready for marriage. Unknowingly to Matthew, Amaka had already met another richer guy. This new guy name is Frank. Frank is a very wealthy man. It was safe to say that he is a billionaire. Frank's wealth came as a shock to everyone, especially the fact that he was wealthy yet his family members were unknown. He just told Amaka that he is an orphan, although he made mention of the state where he came from. Amaka agreed to marry Frank. Immediately Frank proposed to her. After all, his wealth was all that matters. Amaka's family members refused Amaka from getting married to Frank. Amaka insisted that if she doesn't marry Frank, that she may never marry again. Amaka's parents asked Amaka about Matthew. They also reminded her how good Matthew is. Amaka simply replied and said that Matthew wasn't rich enough, that Frank's money can buy Matthew and his wealth 10 times. Amaka's mom advised Amaka as a daughter, telling her that money is not everything, but Amaka wasn't even paying attention to what her mother was saying. She told her mom that they were against her happiness and joy. Amaka's mother told Amaka to keep quiet, that she's just a child and knows nothing about marriage. Amaka's father insisted that Frank must bring any of his family members. Amaka went to Frank very happy and told him that his parents have accepted his proposal, but on the condition that he brings any of his family members. Frank was happy and accepted Amaka's proposal. A week later, Frank went with his uncle and auntie to visit Amaka's people. They already did everything, and at last Amaka and Frank were together as a couple. Amaka was enjoying her rich husband. She even calls her parents and sends them money. Amaka called her mother one day and told her that she'll be traveling outside the country for vacation with her husband, Frank. Earlier before then, Frank already told Amaka to make the calls by calling her parents and telling them because they will be traveling for a vacation. Amaka's mother was happy for Amaka. She thanked God that Amaka is happy in her marriage. One day, Amaka went out to make her hair in preparation of the traveling. On her way back, she caught her husband Frank sleeping with another woman. Amaka couldn't believe her eyes. She had to rub them to be sure of what she was seeing. Frank didn't even move. Rather, he shouted at Amaka and told her that she has no right to enter his room without knocking. Amaka was still standing and crying when Frank asked her to leave the room. Amaka was about opening her mouth when Frank slapped her and asked her to leave. Since that day, Frank continued to bring in different women. Amaka was tired of the whole thing. She was always crying. She even threatened Frank that she is going to report him to his parents. Frank warned her never to repeat such statements again. Amaka was surprisingly shocked how her once lovely husband changed within a twinkle of an eye. Amaka decided to call Matthew. Matthew answered Amaka's phone call and Amaka narrated her sad ordeal to Matthew and asked him to please help her out from that marriage. Matthew felt pity for Amaka and agreed to help her. Amaka was still on the phone when Frank entered the room. Amaka didn't even notice Frank's presence. When she was done making call, Frank simply clapped his hands and laughed and told Amaka that she is ungrateful. That after he used his money to marry her and brought her out of poverty, that all she could use to pay her back was to be gossiping with his name. Amaka was about opening her mouth to say a word when Frank slapped her. This wasn't the first time Frank was slapping her, but this time Frank added severe beating to it. Frank went on to seize Amaka's phone and locked her up in the room. Frank left Amaka in that room for 3 days without food or water. Amaka had to drink the bathroom water to stay alive. On the 3rd day, Frank brought food and water for Amaka. Amaka, after eating, was pleading with Frank to let her go, but Frank simply told her that she is now his property and that she will go nowhere. Amaka knew that she is in huge trouble. Whenever Amaka's parents called Frank to ask for Amaka whereabouts, Frank simply lied to them and told them that Amaka has traveled outside the country. Amaka's mom knew that something was wrong because this would be the first time ever since Amaka got married that she would stay without calling them. One day, Amaka's mother had a dream about Amaka. And due to the fact that Amaka's mother's dream always comes to reality, she knew instantly that her daughter was in danger. Amaka's parents went to Frank's house, but the gateman refused them from entering the compound. Amaka's parents decided to go to her uncle and auntie's house. And when they arrived, they found out that nobody was living there. It was then that they got to know that the house was just a rented apartment. Anybody can come in, rent it, and after a duration, you can leave. Amaka's parents were chased out from the said suites because they were about to cause nuisance. Frank got home, opened the door, and slapped Amaka. He told her that he got an information that his parents were looking for her, that her parents even went to his uncle's house. Then Frank gave an evil laugh and revealed to Amaka that the uncle and auntie that came with him to ask for her hand in marriage were not actually his family members, that he hired them and I does not know them from anywhere. Amaka, hearing this revelation, started crying and she soon discovered that not all that glitters is gold. Amaka's parents didn't give up. They went to Matthew's house. When they arrived, they were welcomed. Matthew's chef offered them food, but they refused and said that they came for something more important. Matthew came out and Amaka's parents narrated to Matthew what was going on for the past few days. Matthew felt pity on them and decided to help them out in any possible way to make sure that Amaka was out from trouble. Matthew told them that he was going to help them. Matthew called the police and together with Amaka's parents, they went to Frank's house. When they got there, the gateman opened the gate for them. They quickly entered the compound and was asking the gateman questions, when suddenly they heard someone shouting. Behold, it was Amaka's voice. They quickly rushed and opened the door, and when they entered the room, Amaka fainted. On their way out, carrying Amaka, they heard another heavy bang on another door, and they forcefully opened the door. What they saw, their eyes couldn't believe it. A room filled with different human skull, and another lady that was inside there was also rescued, and all of them were taken to the hospital. When they got to the hospital and Amaka regained consciousness, Amaka told Matthew and her family and the police what happened. The strange woman affirmed to it and confirmed to them that Frank is a ritualist and that the strange scary room where they saw her were where he carries out his evil works. Everybody was dumbfounded. The police went back to arrest Frank, but Frank was nowhere to be found. News reaching everyone was that Frank has fled outside the country and nobody heard about Frank again. Amaka went back to Matthew and apologized to him to please forgive her and take her back as his wife. Matthew smiled and told Amaka that it was too late as his lovely fiancée Ada was already pregnant for him. Amaka was ashamed. She just waited a few years of her life with Frank. Matthew went on and told Amaka that he would help her in any way he could by opening a business for her to start somewhere because he has already moved on, and urged Amaka to also do same by moving on with her life. Amaka thanked Matthew and left. Thank you so much for listening to my story. Please like, share, subscribe, on notification bell so when I post new videos you'll be notified, okay? I'll see you in my next video. Please do not skip ads in case it pops up. Bye for now.